Awesome. Cool. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us today, and also anyone that's catching up on the replay. This is the first session of our two-part Exit Readiness series, the Exit Ready Agency. And I'm excited to be joined by Globital's founder and managing director, Damian Papworth, today. Great to have you here, Damian.
Hi, Leanne. Hi, everyone. It's good to be here.
Today we're going to dive into your past agency exit story.
Okay.
That didn't quite go to plan. What happened and where it went sideways, and talking a bit about the lessons that you learnt along the way. Hopefully other agency owners can take on board for their own exit journey and preparation.
Yeah, sure. I'll give I've taken some notes to try to make it as valuable a session as possible. And so I wouldn't mind going right back to the start. When I started, Ocean Feather was the name of my agency. And the reason I wouldn't mind going through the whole history is because I think it'll probably be quite resonant to most agencies, how they come to being, and the actual journey has lessons in itself, I think. So I started, I had a job in corporate. We used to make or database software for the big mutual funds, the banks, superannuation companies, particularly, most of the business I was in focused on superannuation. The software piece that I was originally a business analyst and then a senior manager for the department. We were in more sort of retail investment funds, but there was databases managing reporting to lots of people. So I got pretty bored in corporate, and this is sort of back around 2002, 2003. So I started, and I was bored. I was very good at putting systems in place. So all of a sudden I found that I had a lot of time on my hands because I had good systems in place. Most of my stuff was delegated, but being senior management, I had to go to the office and I had to sit there for 8 hours, and it was probably an hour and a half work a day. And then I was, quite soul destroying. You get home and having, this 5 hours, 6 hours of doing nothing in particular, and it just bleeds into the rest of your life. And I try to push into account management of our clients, try to, increase the business we had there. And the corporate I was in had its own sales team, and they were pushing back, telling my managers to tell me off because I was stopping their ability from getting commissions. So there was all the politics regarding that when I was just trying to be, I was trying to be a little bit dynamic and, take some additional responsibilities and that kind of stuff. So it wasn't great for me. And I just started playing online. I started, absorbing information. And I can remember 1 month, just playing for 2 or 3 months, doing chasing affiliate commissions. I made $20 profit 1 month. Then the next month I doubled that, trying to figure out what I did right and what I did wrong. I made $40. Then the month after that, I doubled again. I made $80 in the third month. And I'm like, this is it. So I quit. I quit. I was on it back then. So this is 2002, 2003. I was probably earning $130,000 a year, I think. And I turned my back on that to have a crack at basically affiliate marketing. That sort of wasn't a great life decision, I don't think. It sent me on a bit of a journey, but it was definitely, in retrospect, it did send me on a journey of tremendous fast-paced learning, and certainly don't think I'd ever change anything. I think I was very good at making decisions that were probably not the best as far as accumulating short-term income, but certainly in retrospect, good decisions as far as creating, business assets and business knowledge, and having the opportunity to leave a legacy behind for my family. So started doing affiliate marketing. So we're talking 2003, 2002, 2004. And just give an indication of that, online was very different back then. Just give an indication of how different it was. Google wasn't really popular. back then. We had, 7 or 8 search engines that I was managing. And, Lycos, Alta Vista, MSN was there, Yahoo was there, Ask Jeeves, these were all search engines. So SEO had a very different meaning back then, and it wasn't really something that people were looking at. And I started with the chasing affiliate income. I was just arbitraging on Google Ads. So Google had a very, very rudimentary ad serving platform there. And it was funny because, it was to make money chasing affiliate commissions. Back then, the best way to do it was focus on lead services, not selling anything, but generating leads for things like mortgage companies, life insurance companies, and that kind of stuff. And it was quite funny because, you do a search on Life Insurance Australia or something like that, and a life insurance quote, and every single Google ad would be an affiliate for the very same business that was paying the most for life insurance ads. So one of the changes that Google made probably about a year into me leaving my career was, okay, every end domain can only have one ad on page 1 of Google. So all of a sudden, when you had 8 ads going to the same business, you'd only have one. So that upset the apple cart for a lot of people all the way back then. But so what happened from there is, so I basically started that business as a hobby. And, I left the corporate world to chasing freedom, pretty much. I mean, I called the business Ocean Feather, which was a concept that I thought represented, a breakdown of boundaries, geographic boundaries, like a, feather caught in the wind, and hopefully budgetary boundaries too. So that was a concept that I went out with. Some of my friends who had their own businesses, they heard when we were out drinking that I was making money online, and they were hearing that this internet thing is going to be important for businesses, and they're kind of pioneering, and they asked me to help them. So I started in a very rudimentary way, putting websites together, just working out as I went and driving traffic to those websites using Google Ads. My very first client, she ended up being my very last client. So she stuck with me the whole way. And I actually changed the sort of nature of her business with what I was doing, where she was like 90% trade for her business. She was selling aftermarket accessories in the auto industry. I turned that around, so her trade business at some point was as little as 60%, not because the trade business dried up, but rather because the retail business that I was driving through online means just grew so much faster. So then having left corporate also and had two or three small business clients, I thought, maybe I'll see if I can get more of these and see how that goes. So I basically found a piece of software that was an email marketing software back then. It wasn't a CRM. All it did was send out emails, and I preset 3, 1 email and three follow-ups. And I just went to the yellow pages, the local yellow pages, and I just started putting data in there, and I just did 10 entries a day, and like within 3 weeks, so that's basically spamming, but within 3 weeks I had enough business that I just ran out of time, and I priced it terribly. I didn't have any idea about business or pricing or anything like that, so I was earning a lot less than I was in corporate, and I had a lot more work and a lot less time. So that's when I really started learning the lessons about business, I think. That was sort of 2003, 2004, and I persisted with that business for 10 years, I guess, and slowly grew it to about $500,000 turnover over those 10 years. Which wasn't amazing. It wasn't terrible. I had a lot of challenges growing the business from around the 100, 120 mark. There was a real barrier there that I had to break through, and I think that was employing the first full-time person and getting that right, because I was on my own. I used an outsourcing model the whole time, and bring the first person in, learning the difference between delegation and abdication was challenging, because you had to delegate, you had to actually learn the skills of the people that you're hiring. But to hire successfully, I wanted to bring skills that I didn't have. So that was always quite a challenge, and you waste a bit of money learning those lessons. But anyway, we sort of grew it to about, $500,000 turnover. Around sort of from 2008 to 2013, it was a very difficult time. Some of the other things that I was doing is I was very interested in, I had a portfolio of stocks which I was running through the same business. And there's an options strategy, a buy right strategy, which was supposed to be quite low risk when you sell options rather than trade them. Great for cash flow. GFC hit though, and everyone lost all their money in stocks. So I was sort of around 2009. At the same time, Google, like SEO in Google worked in a very specific way, and it wasn't the way Google wanted it to work. So Google was saying very clearly, do this, this, and this if you want to, improve your site's visibility on our search engine, and don't spam everyone, and don't do this and don't do that. But it didn't work. Like, what worked was a very specific way of doing SEO, and if you followed the practices of SEO at the time, that's how you get rankings, and everyone was doing the same thing. So it's a bit like the Tour de France around Lance Armstrong's era. Everyone was cheating. Everyone was doing it this specific way. But everyone still had clients, and clients wanted to be on page one of Google, and to get them there, you had to do things. So anyway, so back around the same time, that's when Google went through all their Panda penalties. And, websites were very specifically targeted for penalties and deranking. We never had any issues with Panda, but then went through the Penguin next layer of penalties, and we got hit a few times with penalties with Penguin. So all in all, and part of the problems that I had back then is I was using outsourced partners who were very lax in their quality control. And, obviously my responsibility, I didn't have the quality control in place to keep an eye on them also. So the reason sort of give that as a bit of context is we were approached in sort of 2013 by two businessmen who joined together and looking to acquire local digital marketing businesses under the same umbrella, keep the local brands, but have a national footprint listed on the ASX. And it was quite an impressive goal and dream that they had. And we were doing it tough. We had a lot of work. We weren't making a whole lot of money. We had a lot of issues from the Penguin penalties. And, so we're we're all really quite exhausted because it had been sort of 3 or 4 years of hard work. So we bought into the vision that these two guys presented to us. And we possibly jumped in a bit early, but so the team had already purchased 11, 12 businesses before they purchased ours.
Wow.
And we did a fair bit of due diligence on the two gentlemen who were leading the vision and rapidly acquiring these businesses. And we literally found nothing. I had a partner with me who I was working with at the time, and we couldn't find anything bad about these guys. Since I think one of them was deregistered from being a director with ASIC, was like he had a director ban for 5 years. And I think that the other one more recently, he tried to do a similar scheme in the retirement, like in tourism, I think, but attracting people's retirement savings. And he's got in a lot of trouble recently with ASIC also. And there seems to be litigation going back and forth between those two. But the point of that is that two guys that in retrospect weren't great guys to go into business with. So we actually went through the process. We sold Ocean Feather to Real Time Media as the ASX the shell of the ASX business that they were going to relist. And the two guys that were leading the show had some kind of falling out. And the first sort of indication that we got that things weren't where they should have been was when Google shut down all the ad accounts for the business. So the way these guys were running Google ads is that they would invoice clients for the ad spend, and they had an arrangement where Google, so they'd invoice up front for the ad spend, and then they had an arrangement with Google where Google would charge them in arrears for money spent, as Google does. So they had sort of 30 days of that cash that they could use, which instead of holding in trust for the client and using it for the Google ads, which is what they should have done, they had some kind of falling out. And I think that what I understand is they spent all that money with lawyers fighting each other for control over the business. And all of a sudden, all these clients who had paid thousands and thousands of dollars for their Google ads looked into their Google ads account and said, your ads are switched off because you haven't paid your bill. So this is sort of 3 or 4 months after we purchased. And look, what basically happened was the whole thing unraveled. Everyone lost their businesses. I ended up not getting a cent out of the business. A lot of my value in the sale was in shares for the ASX listed company that was supposed to relist. That's where the value was going to be. But I know at least one marriage split up over it. There was a number of, there were people that just lost their family income. It was a disaster. And that's basically where Globital started. For everyone who knows Globital or uses us, you'd be aware of a gentleman, Asjad, who's our Chief Operating Officer. He was the guy that I used to outsource to with Ocean Feather. And when we sold Ocean Feather, the real-time media didn't want to outsource to Pakistan. They had their own outsourced partner. So Asjad lost his contract with us at that point. But within 4 months, I sort of brought it back. I recontacted Asjad and said, hey, look, let's start again. I've got a handful, like I'd made friends with these business owners that lost their livelihood and the guys whose marriages were splitting up and that kind of stuff. I said, let's put together a wholesale only offering and see if we can help these guys get back on their feet. So we did that, and that was basically the origin of Globital, just trying to help the guys, everyone get their feet back under them and put food on the table for their kids and their families and that kind of stuff. And yeah, I think 5 of the guys that out of the original 11 or 12, I think 5 of them joined us, and I think everyone else went on their in different directions. So that's kind of what happened as far as the sale of Ocean Feather, and how it didn't work. Also the origin story for Globital.
Yeah.
And I guess from here, there's probably a number of ways we can go. I can give, and Leanne, maybe you can direct, or maybe people want to say in chat. I can give my personal learnings and insights as to what happened during that time and what I learned from that time. Some of it's personal, some of it's business. All the personal stuff obviously relates to business and probably quite relevant to a lot of agency owners. And then since then, I guess the next step of the journey is since then I've had some proper corporate strategic analysis done on Globital as a business and what would make it really attractive for a purchaser. And also, I've purchased myself 3 businesses in the last 18 months, and I can tell you what I was looking for there, because that's 100% relevant to agencies thinking about selling.
Yeah. Let's go through some of the lessons to start with. That's probably a tough one there.
Cool.
But we can go through, what things that you've taken away from it that you've learned and put into practice moving forward.
Sure. So I've been keeping it a little bit shallow up to this point. So let me go into a little bit more depth.
Don't go too deep.
All right. So, because a lot of it comes down to mental health. And I think, if I think about GFC, all the penalties that Google was, applying to agencies, I think we've gone through maybe not as severe as far as short timelines, but I think we've gone through a little bit of a similar 2 years or so over the last 2 years. I think it's been a really difficult environment for agencies. I think we've globally, or certainly the Western world, had quite strong recessionary energy in the economies. And obviously we've got AI disrupting the industry quite. I think it's been a slow start, but I can see things seem to be starting to speed up a little bit with the AI industry disruption. So I guess I think with the times are probably similar, so it's probably a good time to share my lowest point through this. So I guess my lowest point, when the business fell apart, one of the guy and the two leaders were basically trying to battle it out in the courts. They were both telling everyone, look, the business is going to continue, it's fine, just stick with us. And one of them got access and control of the bank accounts and stopped paying wages. And I had staff that came along for the ride with me based on my decisions. I had shareholders who had invested in me who were, part of the equation. I had clients who I saw were not getting serviced anymore, that they trusted me with this transition. And all of a sudden, I'm 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 7 weeks, and I haven't had a payment of a wage. So the actual contract that we had with the sale was initial payment in scrip in the new company, and then we had earn-out targets that we get most of the value of the sale of the business if we hit certain targets, like with new sales, retention of clients, retention of employees was all part of those targets. And I'm like, so for my shareholders who are good mates of mine to get maximum value, I can't lose any clients and I can't lose any staff. My staff haven't been paid for over a month now. So I've got loyalty to them. My clients are paying money. Those three in itself, I couldn't look after everyone. Someone has to lose. In the meantime, I hadn't been paid myself, and I just remember one night we just had our second child at this point, third child. We just had our third child at this point. And I just remember sitting at the dinner table, and kids as their kids, they don't know what's going on, and they've just got this absolute trust in dad. And I'm like, I'm such a fraud. I've got one job, put food on the table. And I knew if I didn't change anything, 6 weeks, I couldn't do that anymore. So I had to make some changes. And as soon as I realized that point, all the stress just left my shoulders. At that point, it's like, well, I got no choice anymore. The only thing that I can worry about now is changing enough to put food on the table. And no one else matters. And that was one of my biggest lessons was you can't always look after everyone. When you can't look after everyone, you've got to go back to basics. And my basic of basics was just be dad, put food on the table. And if you do that really well, and you go back to that and actually really take care of that, you will get a chance to make it up to the people that you let down. So I just went through a process, and I'm like, well, who am I going to let down? Well, I'll let down my shareholders. So basically, they're the guys that missed out. I made sure my staff got jobs. I said, guys, don't hang around. You've got to go. You're not going to get paid again. That was 100% against my contracts with real-time media. I made sure all my clients moved on and found alternative providers. And I had, obviously, in selling the business, I had non-competes against me everywhere. So I couldn't actually operate independently in the digital marketing industry anymore. Well, I couldn't be an agency anymore. So I set up a loose consulting structure, and basically I did digital marketing consulting to most of the clients that I had strong loyalty to. And, basically I did the services that they were previously getting, but as a consultant in their business rather than as an agency. So I got them moving again. I ended up taking a bit of a financial hit, making it up to them for the months of non-service they got. So I didn't want them to pay for the non-service that they got from the other operators. So I made that up to them and kept them going. But obviously the guys who had invested in me, my shareholders, they lost all their investment. But what I did to make it up to them is I gave them equal percentage investment. The share percentage I had in Ocean Feather, I gave them an equal percentage in Globital. So I managed to make that up to them. So it was funny though, like in the middle of all that, I can remember sitting at the table and having that reflection and understanding and acknowledging what was going on with my kids. I got a phone call later that week and my best friend died all the same week. So yeah, it was a pretty full on time. He was 31, he actually died of bowel cancer. So we found out, when we found out, he was like 6 weeks and he was gone. So pretty stressful time. Back then I was quite stoic, trying to do it all myself and not really sharing with anyone. When you said that you hadn't heard this story before, so it seems like I've been quite good being stoic about it for a long time.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think other reflections from that time is when you can't look after everyone, just make sure you get the basics right. Make it up to people down the track if you can. I think reflecting. I think there's a real thing that no matter what happens, we're going to be okay. We're quite lucky, I think, blessed in Australia that there are safety nets here, and family ties, and that was, I could see, a breath away from bankruptcy, but here we are, and I didn't lose the house. I managed to figure my way through that, but it's very unlikely, unless I chose, that I would have ended up on the street. So I think having this idea of surrender and trust to the process rather than hold on to the outcome is really important. And I think that's something I had as a kid. No matter how late I left those university assignments, I still managed to get them over the line. And I kind of lost that for a little bit there. I gained that back, I think. And I think that's an important thing to have. I remember sitting down the next day after that dinner with the family, and I was like, well, what do I actually have? Because I could see there was no financial resources, and I worked out, well, what have I got? I've got my reputation. It's very strong in the area. I used to do all the networking to the people that I was with the people that I was selling, and they sort of loved me in the communities, and I put a lot into the community. So I got reputation and I got relationships. And one of the things that I found out from that is that's all you need. That's all I needed to recover. My reputation and strong relationships. And so, I think agency businesses in themselves don't require huge numbers of clients to make them work. So we're not talking like Dreamworld, the theme park up the road here on the Gold Coast. They need 2,000 or 5,000, like an extraordinary number of people a day going through their front door just to break even. I don't think that's the same with agencies. I think, a foundation for an agency could be 10 clients. So, I just think if we keep that in mind, strong enough reputation in your business community, and focusing on relationships, you should be able to actually get that and keep that at that level. So, and I think the last lesson that this is 10 years ago now, and I still, these are the lessons that I remember 10 years on. I'm sure there are more, but I had a situation where one of the guys in our business community who did printing, after I sold the business, he was a B&I guy. After I sold the business, another one of the guys went into B&I, not me, and got some business cards done, $500 worth of business cards, whatever. And this guy never gave me credit. For some reason, he gave this other guy credit, knowing that I'd sold the business and I didn't have access to the bank accounts anymore, that kind of stuff. Obviously, when it all fell apart, he didn't get paid, and he's aggressively chasing me for payment. And I'm just like, this guy, not a good person. And I basically have not spoken to him since. On the flip side, I spoke to, my lawyer got the hint that something was going on, a guy called Ian Kennedy, and he just said, why don't you just let me look after this for you? Never charged me. He looked up to all the legals, all the chasing, everything that, I'd imagine the bill would have been thousands. And he just looked after it for me. So Ian is now one of the shareholders in Globital. And so he ended up investing in me and the business down the track, and we catch up for lunch every month still. So I guess that last lesson is, everyone says surround yourself with smart people. I think you just need good people. Like in business, you just need good people who you look after when you need to, and they look after you when you need to also. And they don't even need you to make it up to them. They just will look after you. So, but it's just funny that those two things happened at the same time. It's like such a contrast.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So that's the personal journey.
What about the business side of things?
All right. So I think as far as the business as regarding exits specifically, there's probably 3 different aspects that I can share. One is my experience in what I just shared now. Since then with Globital was quite, so it grew very fast over sort of 5, 6, 7 years. So we actually got some external corporate strategic analysis done on Globital and what would make it a really good fit for a buyer. So I can share some of the work we did there, and also I've been actively buying businesses myself over the last sort of 2 years, and share some of my experiences with that and how it relates to an agency. So I can probably try to pull all these things together. So let's start with Ocean Feather. So exiting Ocean Feather, it wasn't a plan of mine. It started out as a hobby, and so one of the reasons why we were struggling during the GFC and the Google penalty era and that kind of stuff is, when you create a business from a hobby, you got all kinds of nonsense in the business. Like, as I mentioned, I had share trading in there. To try to save tax, I had a very expensive, well, to me back then it was a very expensive car. I had a lease that was over $1,000 a month. So we're doing that. People were involved in the business who shouldn't have been. I was just loyal to them rather than to the business. It was just really messy. And there's so many different, I was still doing affiliate. I still had affiliate programs that I was earning revenue on. I had consulting work I was doing back to the superannuation industry. So it's just a mess. It wasn't a business that was structured for an exit at all.
I think a lot of agencies are like that too.
100%.
They're like that. They don't have the right processes in place.
Exactly. They're not clean businesses. And also, I think as agencies in digital marketing, we're susceptible, strong other industries to the shiny object syndrome. Like the number of agency owners who, 2 years ago were so strong on crypto, They've dropped their crypto because now it's AI, and it's just kind of typical to our industry. So I think one of the things is, if you want to sell your agency, make it make sense. Clean out all the junk and just build a really good business. And you don't want to go into, so you want to be deliberate about creating an environment for an exit. And that we weren't. We were approached to exit and we were exhausted. And, you know, I needed an earthquake to get some of their hobby junk out of the business, which is what I got in retrospect. But yeah, so, I mean, plan it. And from day one with Globital, we actually said, well, when we could see that the Globital model was going to work, we structured it deliberately for an exit. So we kept it very clean. There's still no debt in Globital. Very clean books. Very, very clean niche. We only service digital agencies. We don't service anyone else. All our products are digital agencies. We did accidentally develop a virtual assistant business within Globital, but we divested that to create its own business because we really wanted to keep this a neat and tidy business. So that's one thing. So if you've developed your agency from a hobby and that sort of resonates, just gradually clean the hobby stuff out and learn about what a neat business looks like. And, you know, make it a neat business. So, yeah. So if you still want to do your shiny objects, that kind of thing, there's two ways to do it. One is to do it separately as a, as a side hustle, or have an R&D budget if it's relevant to what your agency is. But your R&D budget, you should be very strict in containing how much resources, both your time and financial resources, other people's resources. Be very, very deliberate as to limiting that. So, you know, I think that's the main thing from my experience. Be deliberate about it. Make the business make sense in all aspects, and clean out all the hobby junk, and don't negotiate when you're exhausted. During tough times, the best time to sell is when you actually got a strong business and you're full of energy. So that's one. With the strategic analysis that we did with into financial. So this is 3 years ago now too. So I guess if we sold Globital, we'd probably sell it to a listed company in the BPO space. Globital we're white label digital agency, but what we actually are is a niched business process outsourcing business. So there's a sort of combination between those two. So the analysis that we had was based on, the first question is, who would buy your business? That's really important to know, because it's just like selling digital agency products. You need to know who your client is, and selling your business is actually selling a product to a client. So the first step is, who would buy your business, and what would they be looking for? What would they be looking for structurally, and maybe even a why. Like, the why is a really good thing. Why would they want to buy that? Would they be buying, for example, it might not be a digital agency who wants to grow the digital agency business. It could be something completely random, like maybe there is a managed service provider, someone who does all the IT side of online, who wants to grow, who's got a really big database and wants to grow their product offering. So they're looking to buy an agency to expand their product offering. Or maybe someone just wants a database, wants your client information, or maybe someone wants your IP. Who knows? There's different buyers have different motivations, and so it's a pretty good idea to have a look at that and understanding what's going on there. So the second thing is to understand how multiples work in the industry. And there's two parts of that. Multiples and when I say multiples, you'll sell the business based on an X factor of your profit. So if you've got clear profit of this, let's say $1 million, well, let's make 300,000 profit. I don't know, could be 100,000, depending on the size of your agency. someone will buy it and say, I'll give you 1 times, 2 times, 3 times, 5 times, 8 times, 14 times, whatever. So that's what the multiple is. You have to understand how that works in your industry. So digital agencies will have a specific multiple formula, but there's also multiple formulas regarding the size of your business and the development of your business. So for example, the businesses that I've been buying personally outside our industry, rule of thumb is, if they're less than $300,000 profit, you're looking at a 1 to 1.5 times multiple. I wouldn't pay more than that. And there's lots of business for sale at one. So, someone who makes $150,000 profit, I would pay $150,000 to $200,000 to buy that business. They're small enough that I'd have to be concerned. And when I say concerned, I don't mean worried. I mean, I need to put something in place regarding management and running the business. So when businesses get a bit bigger than that, especially I look for management. I look for businesses that are fully managed. So that means when the owner exits, I don't have to come in as a full-time employee. There's a management in place. Multiples then go up to 2 to 3 times. I bought a really good business in Brisbane last year called Vanilla Zulu. It's a cooking school. It has a bit more profit. It had a good management team in place. I paid 3 times multiple for that. And I think what happens, which is not the space that I work in, but what happens after that is when you get to the 1-2 mil plus profit, that's when you get private equity companies interested. And quite often when they get interested, they're looking to build the business to something that gets listed on the ASX or something like that. So they're usually willing to pay a bit more. They'll look to exit themselves, at a 20 times multiple with a listing. So they'd be happy to pay 8% to pull all the pieces together. But, as the businesses get bigger, they tend to attract, and by bigger, I mean by profit, not necessarily revenue, by profit, they tend to attract bigger multiples. So having a good understanding of that will give you a good understanding of the price you're going to get for your agency, which will also then give you a good idea of why chasing profit is way more important than chasing.
Oh, lost you there.
Sell your business, you're going to sell it based on profit, not on revenue.
Yeah. Just lost you for a second there.
I hope we caught it all.
We're good there. I got got most of that there.
All right, so that's important. If private equity or companies bigger are going to invest or purchase your business, they're going to look for governance. So if you have directors and other partners, have a history of recorded board meetings. That's an important part of governance. That is something I'll look at. And then there's business stability. So things to look at regarding that is stability and growth. You don't want one year to be down, next year up, down, up. You don't want the roller coaster. You want like a consistent 10% growth each year in both revenue and profit. It looks really, really good. Consistent 20%, 30% looks better. Consistent 5% actually looks better than on average 20%, but up and down and up and down and up and down. You want stability because a buyer's going to want to know that this is going to work in a predictable manner when they take it off your hands. So other things stability in is clients. Keep your attrition of clients low. Staff, particularly management and team, keep your attrition of management and staff low, and have a decent strategy as to how you're growing the business. Clients and sales and growth, obviously having processes around them to prove that you can continue doing what you've been doing, even though you're not at the helm anymore, that the machine will continue. I think the last 2 points are quite important. The first one is having cash flow and resources in the business. Always have a level of cash flow and resources in the business. I think Profit First is a really good business framework to ensure you do keep the resources in the business while you take profits as dividends as the owner. So you get rewarded as well as keep resources in the business. The reason why I say that's important is because things don't always go to plan. And when things don't go to plan, resources in the business just gives you some time and some space to sort stuff out. If you're running your business lean every month over years and years, one of these things that happens is going to knock you over. So always try to keep, 2 months of cash reserves in the business so you can cover your expenses if everything stops. And then the final point is really timing for us. One of the things a buyer will look for is risk minimization and how you're de-risking the business for them. And AI, artificial intelligence, is something you need to be considering, how you manage that. What are the products going to be that digital agencies sell in the next 3 years? Make sure you're on track with that. How are you applying AI to the management of your business? Make sure you don't fall behind with that. I don't think you're going to have people that buy businesses just because they want a digital agency and they don't care. The unprofessional or the non-professional investors. Maybe you get a lot of those in Australia, particularly the business visas, people coming from overseas who want to live here and have to buy a business. They might just snap up a business because it's there. If you're going to a professional investor, they will know about AI. They will know AI is disrupting the digital marketing industry. And part of the equation of them buying your agency is seeing how you'll de-risk your business with artificial intelligence. Now, all these factors too, just the final point, all these factors, these are not, you won't get a sale if you get them all. You won't get a sale unless you get them all in place, and then you get the sale when you do. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, if you understand your multiples, you should get a good idea of what value price will be put on your agency when you're ready to sell it. But when you don't have these things lined up, each thing you don't have lined up is going to put a question in your buyer's mind, and that will lower the price they're willing to offer you for your agency. So have all these lined up, clean business, good governance with recorded board meetings, repeated year-on-year growth, which is reasonable and makes sense, with a good margin. What's the margin of the industry you should be getting? Make sure it's, equal or better than industry averages. You've got less than 5% attrition on your clients. You've got a solid team who has been with you for a while, got an AI strategy, and you've got cash in the bank. That's a really good parcel to pass on to the next owner.
Position to be in. Now, you've also put together a short course around how to capitalize your business too.
Yeah, so that's a little bit different. So basically, and I experienced this too. So this is one of the things about having cash flow and resources in your business. Quite often we say, I want to grow the business by X amount. That's my goal for this year. But we don't actually go through the process of understanding how much that will cost in marketing and advertising, and maybe infrastructural costs that need to increase. We don't know if our pricing can support that. There's a whole bunch of things that we don't know. So I put together, and that's called, can I afford this growth? That's called capitalization. Most businesses fail because they are undercapitalized. They don't have the capital to run the business for long enough to overcome issues that they've got, or in an appropriate way to achieve the goals that they've got. So this course that I put together is just going through a 4-step process to make sure you understand exactly what you need to understand to ensure you've got enough resources to hit your growth targets. Or if you can't get those resources to hit your growth targets, you can always use time as a variable. So instead of aiming for this over 12 months, you can work out, well, I've got the resources to do this over 24 months. So let's do it that way instead.
So we're going to be diving into that in the next episode of this short series as well.
Great.
I've just linked that into the chat if anyone wants to jump into that, as well as having a chat with us to sort out fulfillment. Anything else you want to add, Damian?
I think that, were there any questions? I thought I'd pull out earlier and get more questions in, but I hope that's all been valuable for everyone.
Yeah. Any questions? Just drop them in the chat if you do have them. Maybe not.
None?
None.
But everything.
That must be everything. Good. Oh,
Right.
just a thank
Pleasure,
you for
Mike.
sharing. There you go. Thanks, Mike. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much, Damian. I know that was a big story for you.
Yes.
Had a very
Well, I hope it's
challenging
of
time
value
in your
anyway.
life.
Yeah, I hope it's of value, because certainly, I just like one of the things about those times too. Alex Hormozy said something which really resonated to me. He said, and it was just everyone knows Alex Hormozy, I think, but one of the things he says is, the harder this time in your life is, the better your origin story is going to be. So that was been great to hear that back in 2013, but I only heard this year. So I've got a good origin story now.
Good origin story. There you go. Oh, it's worth it. So there we go.
All right.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Thanks again, Damian.
Yeah.
Have a good day.
All right. Bye.
See ya.